on the news. Day 3 of the General Assembly in Baltimore has wrapped up. The Eucharistic Revival campaign was on the agenda. Plus, we have details of a possible overseas trip for the Bishop of Brooklyn, Robert Brennan.
Everything that I've been given is a gift from God, and I need to give back.
A Diocese of Brooklyn mother who lost her son put pen to paper, and now she's sharing her letters of love in a new book. It's back. The Tablet's beloved Bright Christmas campaign is ready to spread Christmas cheer, but your help is needed. And reaction to former President Trump's big announcement. He's running for president once again.
2 years ago, we were a great nation, and soon we will be a great nation again.
I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now. It's day 3 of the Bishop's public meetings in Baltimore. One of the topics on the agenda, the Eucharistic Revival campaign launched earlier this year to raise awareness of the real presence in the communion. Bishop Andrew Cousins, who's organizing the revival, presented his report on how the campaign is going. 50 national Eucharistic preachers are traveling around the country spreading the good news. Plus, 10,000 prayer partners are forming an online community. 80% of the dioceses in the United States are active in the campaign.
Pentecost was a revival. It's a movement that God does. And I hope that during this revival, God will change hearts. He'll bring about repentance and conversion. God will fill his people with his Holy Spirit and manifest in the fruits and graces of the Holy Spirit. God will ignite a fire in the hearts of our people to share the life-saving love of Jesus in the Eucharist.
The revival will culminate with a Eucharistic Congress in Indianapolis in July of 2024. 80,000 Catholics are expected to attend. Registration will open next spring. Let's bring in national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, John Lavenberg, to talk more about the Eucharistic Revival. He joins us from Baltimore. Hi, John.
Hi, Christine.
So, John, while giving his update on the Eucharistic Revival, Bishop Cousins talked about a new study from the Center for Applied Research in the Apostolate. Let's take a look really quick. It shows 50% of Catholics know the teachings on the real presence in the Eucharist, but it also shows only 40% believe the teaching. So is the Eucharistic Revival working?
I would say, it's a little early to say whether or not it's working because we're so early in this first phase. But what I can say is those statistics that you just brought up are central to their excitement about what they hope this first phase can be. And that's a diocesan phase where they're forming diocesan leaders to lead people in their parishes, in their communities, to be missionaries. So that's what they really hope this next year will be about. And there's a lot of excitement from Bishop Cousins, from the other leaders of the project that were here. There's a lot of excitement of what this first year can bring and really launch this Eucharistic Revival to the 2024 Congress.
All right, the war in Ukraine was discussed during the meeting today, and you spoke with Brooklyn Bishop Robert Brennan about it. What did he say about the Catholic response, and does he have any plans of going there?
What's interesting about Bishop Brennan and Ukraine is that this was something that he wanted to talk about. He made it a point when I sat down with him to talk about Ukraine, and he talked about the large Ukrainian population in the Diocese of Brooklyn. He said that the diocese's prayers and its support will continue and always be with the people of Ukraine. And he even said, he mentioned that, he talked with another bishop today before Archbishop Boris Gudziak gave his remarks on the situation. And he talked about wanting to go there and travel to Ukraine to be with the people. And he talked about a universal church that expands beyond the diocese.
Wow. All right. There was also an update on the synod. What are the bishops finding out from the listening sessions in their diocese, and what's next?
So as for the synod, the presentation here was more of an overview about what this next continental phase will be, where the USCCB will work with the Canadian bishops on forming a document that will ultimately go to the Vatican. But when I spoke to Bishop Brennan, and this is something a number of bishops have talked about as well that came out of their individual diocesan sessions, he talked about the need for this process to continue at the local level, the desire for local Catholics to keep having these conversations, focusing on topics about formation, engaging youth and young adults, other things as well, that they want to keep this process going to improve the church at the local level and really be a part of that.
All right, and finally, the newly elected president, Archbishop Timothy Broglio, said yesterday he'd be interested in meeting with President Biden. Really quickly, what are the chances of that happening?
If we're going to base it off of how now outgoing President Archbishop Gomez's luck went with President Biden, it's kind of unlikely. Archbishop Broglio, he brought up the fact when asked about meeting with politicians and President Biden, he mentioned the fact that Archbishop Gomez expressed a desire to meet with President Biden and that meeting never took place. So while Archbishop Broglio said that he would welcome the opportunity if President Biden wanted to sit down with him, based on President Gomez's term and what just happened, it appears unlikely, but you never know what could happen and what could change in the next 3 years.
So true. We'll have to wait and see. John Lavenberg, national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux. We'll see you tomorrow for a wrap-up of the Assembly.
Thank you, Christine.
The bishops will be in private meetings on Thursday. John Lavenberg will be back in Brooklyn to wrap up coverage of the conference. That's Thursday, right here on Currents News. And if you want more information on that Eucharistic Revival campaign the bishops were speaking about, just go to eucharisticrevival.org. You can also sign up for a newsletter so you can stay informed. We are about a week away from Thanksgiving, and Catholic Charities Brooklyn and Queens are helping dress holiday tables around the diocese with a turkey giveaway. More than 1,100 families received the uncooked birds at Our Lady of Sorrows Church in Queens Wednesday. The event, which is now in its 7th year, is all thanks to 2 generous donors who provide the turkeys in honor of their parents. COVID and flu shots were also available. Bishop Brennan will join in on the holiday giving next Monday. He'll be at Holy Innocents Church in Brooklyn to help CCBQ hand out more turkeys. The church is located at 279 East 17th Street, and the event will take place from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Currents News and the Tablet will have full coverage of the event. All this turkey talk means Christmas is right around the corner. It also means a tradition at the Tablet newspaper is kicking off. The Bright Christmas Fund's mission is to raise money for parishes and Catholic ministries in hopes of ensuring a Merry Christmas for children and families in need in the Diocese of Brooklyn. The staff at the Tablet is hoping to top their total from last year of $117,000 and raise $125,000 this year. The need is great this year for families fighting inflation, but you can help. Here's how. You can make a check out to the Bright Christmas Fund and mail it to Bright Christmas LB number 2118, P.O. Box 95,000, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and the zip code 19195. Or you can make your donation online at thetablet.org/brightchristmas. We'll give out this information again at the end of this newscast. Now to the race for the White House. They may still be counting ballots from the midterms, but we're already talking about the 2024 presidential election. We're getting some reaction after former President Donald Trump made an announcement last night that he's running.
America's comeback starts right now.
Former President Donald Trump announcing another bid for the presidency.
2 years ago, we were a great nation, and soon we will be a great nation again.
The former president is aiming to be only the second commander-in-chief ever elected to 2 non-consecutive terms. Trump making the long-anticipated announcement in the wake of election losses from several of his endorsed candidates.
Much criticism is being placed on the fact that the Republican Party should have done better, and frankly, much of this blame is correct. But the citizens of our country have not yet realized the full extent and gravity of the pain our nation is going through, and the total effect of the suffering is just starting to take hold. They don't quite feel it yet, but they will very soon.
Given the GOP's midterm losses, some Republicans are wary of another Trump presidential bid. It's widely expected he'll face primary challengers. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is seen as one possible contender to challenge the former president.
We just tell people to go check out the scoreboard from last Tuesday night. It was a hugely underwhelming, disappointing performance.
Another potential contender is his former vice president, Mike Pence.
I think we'll have better choices in the future.
President Biden, who has yet to say whether he'll seek re-election, tweeted after the announcement, quote, "Donald Trump failed America."
I believe I can beat Donald Trump again.
Trump's early campaign announcement comes after the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago, which advisors say pushed his decision to mount what he believes will be a triumphant political comeback. The former president is also the subject of several lawsuits and federal investigations, including one on the January 6th Capitol attack. The student accused of killing 3 University of Virginia football players was denied bond on Wednesday. During his court appearance, Christopher Darnell Jones did not enter a plea. He faces 3 counts of second-degree murder, among other lesser charges, after opening fire at the Charlottesville campus following a field trip. Devin Chandler, Deshaun Perry, and Lavelle Davis were killed. 2 others were wounded. The Bishop of Richmond, Barry Nestout, says he is praying for those affected and for the students at UVA, saying, "Like you, I grieve for the loss of life, and my heart breaks for the suffering caused by this troubling act." While we await more details from school and law enforcement officials, let us reflect on how violence permeates the culture in which we live and our efforts to promote peace within our society. May our Blessed Mother, Queen of Peace, intercede for us. Developing news out of Poland, video showing fire and smoke moments after a missile landed. But tonight, escalation fears are easing. That's because investigators now believe the missile was actually a Ukrainian stray fired in defense, not a Russian strike. Matthew Chance is there with more on the investigation.
It's still a very tight security operation here. We can't get any closer than this, a couple of hundred yards away from where the missile struck and exploded and caused that damage and really set the world on edge, because there were concerns that this could have been a deliberate accident by Russia to strike a NATO country. That does not, fortunately, seem to be the case right now, because we're getting a whole load of officials from the United States, from Europe and from Poland as well, that are suggesting that this is more likely to have been a Ukrainian missile that struck this territory of Poland and unfortunately killed those 2 people. You have to remember the context, though, and that's that when yesterday this missile struck Polish territory, it was during a time when Ukraine itself was being absolutely bombarded with Russian missiles, cruise missiles, other types of missiles as well, across targets across the country, up to 100 according to Ukrainian officials. That's serious. Of course, it's terrible for the people, the 2 people who were killed here, but it doesn't necessarily lead us down the road of broadening, fortunately, this conflict beyond Ukraine to potentially bring in the NATO military alliance.
That was Matthew Chance reporting. NATO's conclusion is at odds with the claims made by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He immediately called the incident a deliberate Russian attack. That's because Ukraine had already been hit by nearly 100 missiles on Tuesday, most of them aimed at civilian infrastructure. But according to the United States Defense Secretary, the mass bombings aren't working.
The Kremlin may hope that more bombardment will break the resolve of the Ukrainian people. But ordinary Ukrainian citizens have responded with the magnificent defiance that the world now knows so well.
However, most of Ukraine is dark tonight. There are broad power outages across the country because of the attacks on the grid. Senior officials told civilians to hang in there. Pope Francis has been praying for the end of the war in Ukraine since the first missiles were fired. He expressed his concerns again during the general audience.
Preghiamo affinché il Signore converta I cuori di chi ancora punta sulla guerra e faccia prevalere per la martoriata Ucraina il desiderio di pace.
He went on to ask God to, quote, hurry up and end it. There's a lot more news headed your way. No parent should have to bury their child. How writing letters to her dying son helped one Queens mom work through her grief. Plus, New York City is kicking off a new project with the goal of bringing more sports fans to Queens. And hop to it. When they're not praying, they're brewing.
She lost her son and gave her pain a purpose.
Grief is the price we pay for love.
The pages of a new book filled with a mother's love.
Peggy Vergadamo lost her son Michael to cancer 5 years ago, and along with losing her youngest son, she lost her faith. But it was restored as she moved through the stages of grief and wrote a book. Current News' Jessica Easthope joins us now to tell us more about Peggy's emotional journey and her book. Jess.
Yeah, Christine, Peggy compiled the letters that she sent to her son during the 23 days before he died in this book called Love Letters from a Mother to Her Dying Son. It was a heart-wrenching process, but one that brought her closer to God. And now she hopes her book will help bring some comfort to other grieving parents.
He used to go crazy because he's this lawyer, and I said, oh, this is my baby,
Michael was the baby.
I'll love you forever.
Peggy's youngest of 4. Her pride and joy.
Your baby all day.
They spoke every day, even when he moved down to Florida. They were more than mother and son. They were best friends.
What a beautiful gift God gave us to be able to share in the creation and development of a child throughout his whole life. And what greater gift could I have?
Now, Michael and Peggy's relationship lives on through this book, Love Letters from a Mother to Her Dying Son. Peggy wrote letters when she couldn't be with Michael during his last days.
He did not want us to watch him die. My pastor said to me, think of Mary, and with the Pieta, and I said, she got to hold her son. I didn't.
On April 14th, 2017, Good Friday, Michael lost his battle with an aggressive form of throat cancer.
My faith was shattered. I lost my son. I lost my baby.
Peggy took her time to grieve before pouring her loss and love into her book. She published it on Amazon earlier this year, with all of the proceeds going back to Cathedral Prep, Michael's alma mater.
Cathedral's motto is Men for Greatness. To me, Michael personified that title in every phase of his life.
The book was on Amazon's bestseller list among new arrivals in the bereavement category the week of its release.
If I can help one person get over this hurdle of feeling despair and distraught and lost, the book is well worthwhile.
With her through her grieving and writing process was her pastor at Our Lady of the Miraculous Metal Church, Father Anthony Sansone.
And we are all much richer for it.
Father Sansone says the book has further inspired his own view on life after death.
I really believe that he is present as well. And much of what has happened in the course of the past year, he has brought about.
Peggy sought out to help others, but the book has allowed her to heal.
I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always, as long as I'm living. Your mommy, your baby.
Peggy says she's been contacted by parishioners and even friends of her children who she's never met to say her book helped them through a similar loss. So Christine, for her, the whole process wasn't easy, but it was worth it.
What an incredible story, Jess. So tell me more about how Peggy is giving back to Cathedral.
Yeah, so far Peggy has been able to donate $150 to Cathedral Prep. She gets $2 for every paperback copy and $3 for every Kindle download. And even though it's only $150, she's really hoping that one day she has enough to give a scholarship in Michael's name.
Oh, what a nice story. Thanks so much, Jess. And you could buy Peggy Vergadamo's book, Love Letters from a Mother to Her Dying Son, on paperback or Kindle on Amazon. As the Diocese of Brooklyn celebrates Black Catholic History Month, the tablet newspaper is highlighting those who make sure that the voices of Black Catholics are heard. The Vicariate of Black Catholic Concerns hosts various workshops and masses focusing on Black Catholic history, but they're also looking to the future with programs like Young Ambassadors. The paper looks into the past of this ministry and features the Vicariate members whose mission it is to raise awareness. You can read this full story in this week's tablet newspaper. Just pick up a copy at your local church. You can get future editions sent straight to you by subscribing online at thetablet.org. New York City is scoring a stadium. The city announced plans to build the first ever professional soccer arena in Queens. The stadium will be the new home for New York City Football Club. Mayor Eric Adams says the goal is to make Queens a world-class sports destination.
This plan would add over $6 billion to the city's economy over the next 30 years and cement Queens' reputation as a world-class sports destination. Soon, we will have New York City Football Club, the Mets, Citi Field, and the Billie Jean King National Tennis Center located side by side. World-class sports for the world's borough.
NYCFC won the MLS Cup in 2021. The 25,000-seat venue is scheduled to open next to Citi Field in 2027. A few weeks ago, Currents News launched A Minute with Bishop Brennan. The next installment of the series is out. We asked him how Brooklyn is different from his previous diocese of Columbus, Ohio.
Here it's pretty urban, but there's a great diversity. All the world passes through Brooklyn. And
you can watch his full answer plus past segments on the Currents News Facebook and Instagram pages. Still to come on Currents News, something's brewing at this monastery in Italy, how the monks are making a living after the break. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Some monks in Italy have launched a new business. They're using the age-old tradition of brewing beer to evangelize. Kelsey Gussie has the story.
Tucked away on the mountainside of the Italian town of Norcia sits the monastery of St. Benedict in Monte. This monastery, which the monks started in 2000, was the first time since 1810 that monks were present in Norcia. 3 monks from the United States founded their home in the birthplace of St. Benedict, their founder.
God sort of called us here. On the natural level, many of us were looking for a way of living the rule of St. Benedict that we thought St. Benedict would recognize, that would look very much like the life that he had intended.
But the monks aren't only known for their monastic way of life. They are also famous for brewing their own beer.
We needed to find a source of income that was more reliable than donations at the time. At the same time, we found people knocking on our door, and they were always asking us, what can we bring home from the monastery that you all make? They kind of wanted to bring home a monk.
Father Benedict says that since they couldn't give monks away, they used the brewing knowledge they had from one monk and a book entitled How to Brew Like a Monk to start their own brew house. He sees brewing as the continuation of a long tradition monks have been doing for centuries, using this custom to reach people worldwide.
We also get to taste our beer every once in a while. The rule of St. Benedict doesn't forbid alcohol. St. Benedict doesn't actually speak about beer conveniently. So the beer has that ability to span the abyss that sometimes exists between us and those who have no faith or wounded faith, or so many who have had a bad experience with the church.
Since 2012, the monks have been using their own home-brewed beer to help pay for a new monastery and their basic necessities. About 20 monks coming from all corners of the world have come to the birthplace of St. Benedict to live out this unique style of monastic life.
That was Kelsey Gussie reporting. And if you're interested in learning how to brew like a monk, you can find the book Brew Like a Monk that Father Benedict mentioned on Amazon. And earlier in the newscast, we told you about the launch of the Tablet's Bright Christmas campaign. The program, which began making Christmas brighter for the less fortunate children of the diocese in the 1960s, needs your help. Just make a check out to the Bright Christmas Fund and mail it to Bright Christmas, LB number 2118, P.O. Box 95,000, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and the zip code 19195. Or you can make your donation online with PayPal or a credit card at thetablet.org/brightchristmas. Start giving. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.